Yes, it's true, Mosaic dominates everything, and not just every assassin build, but nearly every build in the entire game. But does that mean we're stuck building everything around Mosaic? Definitely not. This time we're diving into one of the most entertaining and personally one of my favorite assassin skills, the Dragon Tail. What makes this skill truly amazing is that it's one of the few practical melee skills in the game with a built-in area of effect. Believe me, if you want to level up your assassin, once you unlock Dragon Tail you can breeze easily through normal and nightmare. Hell, however, is a different story. The difficulty spikes sharply and immunities start to dominate the game. That's why in this guide we'll take a look on how to make this build truly devastating while also explaining everything you need to know around the skill. So before jumping into the actual guide, we first need to understand how the skill works. The martial arts skill tree has two types of skills, charge up skills and finishing moves. Since Blades of Ice is essentially the cold counterpart of Dragon Tail, it's the perfect example to illustrate the difference between the two. So, Blades of Ice is a charge up skill, which means you first need to build charges and then release them with a finishing move. The process can feel slow and repetitive, especially when compared to Dragon Tail. Dragon Tail is a finishing move, which means that each hit immediately unleashes its full power, no charging required. That alone gives Dragon Tail a huge advantage, and it's the only finishing move with this kind of area of effect potential. Even better, it can be combined with charge up skills. You can build up charges from different skills and then release all of them at once with Dragon Tail. Now that we understand the basics, let's dive deeper into how the damage actually works. Dragon Tail's tooltip says it deals fire damage, which can be a bit misleading because in reality it deals two types of damage. Physical damage to the target you directly kick, and fire damage to the enemies behind that target. Dragon Tail converts your physical damage into fire. The higher your physical damage, the more fire damage Dragon Tail will deal. Therefore, increasing your physical damage will tremendously benefit Dragon Tail's fire damage. The confusion starts on how this damage is actually delivered. Even though the fire damage is based on your physical damage, it also depends on the physical damage the primary target receives. This leads to two important interactions. If the target is immune to physical, it takes no physical damage, which means the explosion carries no fire damage at all. The animation appears but it deals zero damage. If the target is immune to fire, it will still take full physical damage, and the explosion will still deal damage behind it, unless they are also fire immune. Finally, before moving on to the build, we need to understand how kicks work. An assassin using any kick skill deals physical damage based on her boots, not her weapon. The weapon's based damage is completely irrelevant. That's why you should always equip elite boots if you're focusing on maximizing physical damage. However, the weapon choice still matters, not for the damage, but for the attributes it provides, and most importantly, its attack speed. One last crucial detail, not all attributes work with kicks. Fortunately, the most important ones, such as lifesteal, mana steal, and crushing blow, function as intended. Below you'll find a table showing what works and what doesn't. It's worth studying carefully to avoid mistakes that could limit your potential. Armed with that knowledge, it's time to move forward and create the perfect Dragon Tail assassin. Powerful, explosive, and efficient in every difficulty. Moving to the skills, we will use a 90 level assassin and check the skills from scratch together. Your main skill is of course Dragon Tail, and it should be maxed immediately. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any direct synergies, so all you can really do is boost its power through supportive skills and gear. Your second core skill is Tiger Strike. This skill massively increases your physical damage per charge, and as mentioned earlier, even the fire damage from Dragon Tail depends on the physical damage you deal. In short, Tiger Strike hyper buffs your Dragon Tail kicks. While Tiger Strike is a charge up skill, and yes, charging can sometimes feel tedious, the damage boost it provides is absolutely worth it. A few charged hits before unleashing Dragon Tail can result in far greater overall damage than just spamming Dragon Tail directly. Of course, this depends on your enemy's durability. If your unbuffed Dragon Tail is enough to one-shot weaker monsters, there's no need to charge up, but against tougher enemies or bosses, fully charging Tiger Strike before kicking can make a massive difference. Use your judgment. Once you get used to the rhythm, it becomes second nature. We won't be using Enigma on this build, so Dragonflight becomes an excellent one-point wonder for quickly repositioning to get a better combat angle or bypassing obstacles. It's also incredibly useful for saving your Mercenary, as casting it instantly teleports him to your location. This not only pulls him out of danger, but also ensures he stays close enough to benefit from your curse's aurora effects. From the Shadow Disciplines tree, the choice between Burst of Speed and Fade will determine the whole gear. Personally, I prefer Burst of Speed for the aggressive playstyle it enables. The boost to attack and movement speed keeps the gameplay fast and fluid. Cloak of Shadows is an excellent skill, but unfortunately the way it works doesn't allow for heavy investment. It provides great crowd control, effectively blinding all monsters on screen and leaving them idle. On top of that, it raises your defense while lowering the enemy's defense. However, you cannot recast it until its duration expires, no matter where you are. This means that if you cast it and then move to a new area, you're stuck waiting until the skill effect ends, essentially giving it a long cooldown. Since investing more points into Cloak of Shadows increases its duration, it only becomes worse as you level it up. Considering that your gear already provides extra skill points, Cloak of Shadows will be already impractical for often use. These are pretty much the core skills we need. As you can see, we are left with plenty of unsigned skill points, so there are a few optional choices. Maxing Shadow Master gives you an extra ally, but the Mind Blast it casts can convert enemies, which prevents you from attacking them and can slow down your gameplay. Death Sentry is another option for its corpse explosion, but it requires additional tactics and becomes significantly less effective at higher player settings. If you would like to follow the direction I use, at level 90 you will end up with 13 unsigned skill points. I recommend leaving these points unspent at first, experimenting with a build and then investing them where they feel most useful for your playstyle. A few good options include Cloak of Shadows, adding more points can improve enemy defense reduction and increase your chance to hit. Fade, helpful in specific situations for extra resistances and overall survivability. Death Sentry, an excellent supplemental skill if you can manage your skill rotation effectively, giving you additional crowd control and corpse explosion damage. When it comes to stats, as usual, assign enough points in strength and dexterity for the gear and the rest to vitality. Remember to account for the stats provided by your Torch and Danny before spending any points. Also, equip your gear first to take advantage of any additional strength or dexterity bonuses it provides. Doing this will save you a good amount of stat points that can go straight to vitality. Just a side note, for this build I would also like to mention the option of investing more points into strength than usual. Since boots are your only source of flat damage for kicks, additional strength can significantly increase that base damage. A few extra points here can translate into a noticeable boost to your overall Dragon Tail performance. This isn't a route I personally follow, but it's worth keeping in mind as a viable alternative depending on your gear and playstyle. Now moving on to the gear. As mentioned earlier, the physical damage from your kick is converted into fire for the explosion, so maximizing physical damage is crucial for delivering powerful hits. If we can combine high physical damage with some negative modifiers to enemy fire resistance, we can truly skyrocket the potential of this build. Personally, I prefer a more aggressive approach, so my gear choices lean heavily toward offensive options. The first item I would like to highlight is the Phoenix Shield. This shield provides a massive up to 400 increased damage, which is perfect for boosting our kicks. On top of that, it also adds a minus 28% to enemy fire resistance, further amplifying our skill's damage. The synergy with this build is incredible, and the Phoenix Shield also offers additional perks such as the Redemption Aura, making it the best in slot item. For armor, Fortitude is another excellent choice. With 300% enhanced damage, it makes our kicks even more powerful. Beyond the offensive boost, Fortitude also provides solid resistances and a significant health bonus, making it a well-rounded and highly effective option. For the helm, Flickering Flame seems like a no-brainer. With plus 3 to fire skills and up to minus 15% to enemy fire resistance, it significantly boosts the fire part of Dragon Tail. Additionally, even though I'm not usually a fan of Thunder Charms, the resist fire aura on this helm practically forces you to use a fire Thunder Charm, as it negates its fire penalty. In most builds, boots don't offer anything truly game-changing, but for a kicksin they are the heart of the build. The primary requirement is boots with high base damage, and Myrmidon Greaves provide the highest possible damage, making them a non-negotiable pick. This leaves us with two choices, Go Riders and Shadow Dancers. Go Rider's main advantage is the Crushing Blow, which this build otherwise lacks. However, because Crushing Blow and Open Wounds are primarily beneficial for uber-oriented setups, my personal preference leans towards Shadow Dancers, which offers a more useful set of attributes. Ultimately, the choice between the two comes down to personal preference. If you decide to go with Go Riders instead of Shadow Dancers, make sure to upgrade them. Upgrading is essential to significantly increase your kick damage. For gloves, we are ideally looking for plus 2 to martial arts to boost our damage, along with 20% increased attack speed to help us reach the desired attack breakpoint. Any additional modes such as life or mana steal, stats or resistances are certainly welcome, though they can be difficult to find on the same pair of gloves. For the belt, Nosferatu's Coil is our only choice, since we need that 10% attack speed for our Dragon Tail to hit the next breakpoint. Other than that, it's a solid belt with nice attributes. For rings, one slot is usually reserved for Raven Frost, for the essential cannot be frozen property, but the additional modifiers it provides are also very valuable. The other slot can be filled with the Bull Cathus Wedding Bud, which grants a skill point, lifesteal and bonus life, all extremely useful for a kicksin. For the amulet, Emaras is great to boost our Dragon Tail more, and of course the resistances which we really need. Finally, let's talk about the weapon, where we have two truly viable contenders, Lawbringer and Lacerator. Both are exceptional choices because of the curses they provide, Decrepify from Lawbringer and Amplify damage from Lacerator. As explained throughout this guide, Dragon Tail's fire explosion is based entirely on the physical damage dealt to the initial target. That means that these two curses directly increase the strength of the fire explosion. Lawbringer shines due to its utility and speed. It can be made in a phase blade, giving it excellent base attack speed, and it provides the Sanctuary aura, which does far more than knockback undead. It completely removes their physical resistance, allowing Dragon Tail to hit them at full force. In addition, Decrepify affects a wider area, offering consistent crowd control and reliable damage amplification across larger packs. Lacerator, however, brings something extraordinarily powerful to the table: amplified damage. It has a 33% chance to cast on striking, which is an incredibly generous trigger rate for such a devastating curse. Amplified damage doubles physical damage taken. The result can be enormous. Very few items in the entire game offer such an easy and frequent way to apply amplified damage, making Lacerator uniquely viable. That said, Lacerator comes with drawbacks. The curse affects a smaller area, and the weapon also causes monsters to flee. When that happens, amplified damage can immediately be overwritten, reducing its effectiveness and sometimes working directly against your goal of grouping enemies for Dragon Tail. You can't go wrong with either option, both are excellent, but amplified damage is such an overwhelmingly strong curse for any build that relies on physical damage that whenever you have an opportunity to incorporate it, you should strongly consider doing so. For this reason, my personal choice is Lacerator, and later in the guide we will see how to minimize the drawbacks. For swap, Call to Arms and Spirit remain the standard choice. In your inventory, make sure to include a Fire Thunder Charm and the remaining slots with martial arts skillers. For small charms, prioritize whatever your character is lacking, ideally resistances. Even though your resistances will generally be solid, certain areas may still feel challenging. In those cases, simply swap, as your spirit shield will provide more than enough safety to navigate through difficult zones comfortably. For the Hireling, an Act 2 Might Mercenary equipped with Infinity is a fantastic combination to further boost our Dragon Tail. The Might aura increases our physical damage, directly enhancing the skill's overall power, while Infinity's Conviction aura significantly boosts the fire damage from Dragon Tail. It's a great combination to improve our damage even more. The rest of the Mercenary's gear should focus on survivability, since all we need from him is to stay alive and provide his auras reliably. What we have effectively achieved is stacking out outstanding amount of physical damage, which becomes doubled whenever amplified damage triggers, and then further reinforced by the negative enemy fire resistance we apply to the fire explosion portion of the Dragon Tail. With both elements amplified, the result is an exceptionally destructive combination. All that remains is to test the build. We will evaluate performance in Players 1 and Players 8. On Players 1, the build performs smoothly. You don't even need to charge Tiger Strike or rely on amplified damage. Simply spamming Dragon Tail is enough to wipe out any group of enemies instantly. The real challenge begins in Players 8, where monsters have significantly higher durability. To fully unleash the potential of this build, we must leverage both Tiger Strike and amplified damage. When engaging a pack, begin by attacking to build 3 Tiger Strike charges. During this process, amplified damage will almost certainly trigger, accomplishing both goals simultaneously. If enemies flee from the Lacerator proc, simply switch targets. The important part is to land your Dragon Tail on the amplified target. As long as the initial target is affected by amplified damage, the monsters behind it will receive the full fire explosion damage, even if they themselves are not cursed. This is why the small area of effect on amplified damage isn't a major drawback. You only need one amplified enemy to unleash the full power of the build. If anything survives, just keep attacking with Dragon Tail to unleash the rest 2 charges.
am overburdened. I am overburdened. I can't carry anymore. I can't carry anymore.
Dragon Tail is a powerful skill that with the right setup can dominate virtually any area in the game. Its area of effect damage is strong enough to clear most zones efficiently without wasting much time. It may take some time to get used to the gameplay and adapt to how the build functions, so a bit of practice is required. With experience you learn how to make the right decisions during combat and position yourself strategically to get the most out of your skill combination. While dual Mosaic claws would allow constant Tiger Strike uptime for insane damage, relying on Mosaic essentially overshadows any other assassin build. By avoiding Mosaic, we can still create a build that's both creative and extremely powerful, one that even a Mosaic focused build might envy.